The air inside the royal bedchamber was thick, heavy, with the musk of unwashed bodies, damp velvet, and something darker. Candles flickered against the stone walls, casting warped shadows across the embroidered sheets, and somewhere, just out of sight, a servant knelt, silent, still, watching. Because in a medieval royal bedroom, privacy was a myth and the bed was never just a bed. In the Middle Ages, the royal bedchamber was not a sanctuary. It was a theater, a battlefield, a tool of control. Every creak of the mattress, every moan or movement could ripple through the kingdom like a storm. Monarchs were not just expected to rule, they were expected to perform. And nowhere was this performance more scrutinized than between the sheets. It began with the ritual of the bedding ceremony, an event as invasive as it was sacred. After the pomp of a royal wedding, the king and queen, or in many cases, two trembling teenagers, would be escorted to their shared bed, not alone, but with an audience. Nobles, priests, family members, and courtiers would crowd the chamber, surrounding the couple like vultures. They came to ensure one thing: consummation, that sacred, sticky moment that would seal a political alliance, validate a crown, or secure a future heir. The newlyweds were expected to lie together while witnesses watched, sometimes even offering advice, sometimes chanting prayers or bawdy jokes. In more extreme cases, trusted attendants would remain in the room all night, just to make sure nothing went amiss. Royal bodies, even in bed, were not their own, and the rules didn't end once the curtains were drawn. For queens, in particular, the royal bedroom was a prison made of lace and linen. They were expected to submit, quietly and obediently, to their husbands. It wasn't passion, it was policy. A queen's body was her country's future. Each menstrual cycle was whispered about in court, each pregnancy a national headline. And when a queen failed to conceive, or bore daughters instead of sons, it was often her who bore the blame, regardless of the king's health, age, or in some cases, known impotence. In some kingdoms, royal couples were forbidden from engaging in intercourse on certain days of the week, during religious festivals, or during Lent and Advent. These taboos were so complex and numerous that some historians estimate a devout royal couple could be banned from sharing their bed for more than half the year. And yet, they were also expected to produce as many heirs as possible. Failure to do so could mean annulment or worse. But perhaps the most invasive rule of all was the verification of virginity. When a royal bride entered marriage, her purity wasn't just symbolic, it was state business. Servants and midwives were sometimes tasked with examining the young woman before her wedding night, searching for physical proof of her virginity, and afterward, the bed sheets were often inspected for blood. In France and England, these stained sheets were sometimes displayed publicly, paraded like banners through city streets to confirm the bride's honor and the king's virility. These humiliating rituals weren't just for the sake of ceremony, they were about control. Royal women were watched, measured, and prodded like livestock, their value determined by what their bodies could offer the throne. A fertile queen was a treasure, a barren one a liability, and yet, it wasn't just women who suffered under these grotesque bedroom rules. Kings, too, were often treated as breeding machines. The pressure to produce male heirs was suffocating, and many monarchs were subjected to bizarre sexual and medical interventions to ensure their performance. Henry IV of Castile, for instance, was dubbed Henry the Impotent. After rumors spread that he was unable to consummate his marriage, his political enemies demanded a medical inspection of his genitals, a procedure conducted by court-appointed examiners. Ultimately, his marriage was annulled, and his reputation never recovered. In the end, his manhood was not measured in private moments, but on parchment, before Parliament. Then there were the twisted solutions to infertility. In one notorious 14th century French case, a royal physician suggested the king sleep with his wife, only during specific moon phases while drinking a tincture of boiled animal testicles. Other treatments included fumigating the bedchamber with dried wolf dung, wrapping the queen's abdomen in crushed pearls, or making the royal couple bathe in separately blessed holy water. None of it worked, but all of it was written down. Hygiene in these chambers, meanwhile, was a disaster. Though the rooms were lined with tapestries and cushions, few were ever properly cleaned. Royal bedding might go months without a full wash. Lice and fleas thrived in the stuffed mattresses. Chamber pots were often kept just feet from the bed, and the smell, especially in summer, was reportedly unbearable. Yet these rooms were still considered sacred spaces. Visitors were expected to remove their hats, lower their voices, and bow their heads. The stink of urine and sweat mingled with reverence and prayer. Servants, too, were a constant presence. They did not just clean or prepare clothing, they watched. In most royal households, the king and queen never undressed alone. Trusted attendants would help them remove their layers of clothing, a ritual that could take upwards of an hour. These servants would help with everything from applying perfumes to examining the monarch's body for signs of disease or pregnancy. Even in their most intimate moments, royals were under surveillance, and the line between servant and spy was often in courts like those of Tudor England or Bourbon France. Some maids and valets were secretly paid to report on what they saw in the royal bed. A king's health, a queen's mood, even a heated argument behind closed doors, all of it could be political ammunition. The bed wasn't just a place of sleep or sex. It was a throne of whispers, where the wrong sigh or misplaced word could trigger scandal, war, or worse. When a queen did become pregnant, a whole new set of bedroom rules took hold. She was often confined to her chambers for weeks or even months, before birth, sometimes forbidden from walking, or even from speaking above a whisper. When labor began, she was not given peace or privacy. Instead, dozens of witnesses, midwives, priests, nobles would cram into the room to watch. Their job was to confirm that the child was born of the queen's body and not secretly swapped or In the case of Marie Antoinette, her birthing room was so crowded that she nearly died from the lack of air and space. Royal childbirth was not sacred, it was surveillance. And the final indignity, even in death, the royal bedchamber clung to its rules. When a monarch died in bed, their body was not immediately removed. First, their servants would strip the sheets, clean the corpse, and sometimes even stitch the lips closed before mourners arrived. In France, it was customary to remove the heart and entrails, and embalm the body while still in the chamber open. Using wine and herbs, the scent was unbearable, but decorum demanded composure. No matter how grotesque the death, the chamber had to be presentable. One final performance. All of this, the invasions, the rituals, the rules, paints a chilling picture of what it meant to sleep with power. The royal bedroom of the Middle Ages was not a place of rest. It was a stage, a prison, a sanctum of suffering. Behind every golden canopy and velvet curtain was a body trapped by duty, ritual, and fear. And yet, to the outside world, it all looked perfect. A canopy bed, a silk nightgown, a crown resting quietly on the bedside table. No one saw the bloodstains, the trembling, the silent tears on linen pillows. But history remembers. It remembers the forbidden rules, the ones scribbled in journals, whispered in corridors, and enforced by candlelight. And now, adieu,